Ancient precision technology, the hidden truth. What if I told you that scattered across Egypt, sitting in plain sight, for thousands of years, are stone objects so precisely manufactured that we could unreplicate them today without our most advanced computer-controlled machinery? What if these weren't made by some mysterious, lost civilization, but were crafted during what we're told was the Stone Age, using nothing more than copper, chisels, and hammers? Hold that thought, because what you're about to discover will completely shatter everything you think you know about ancient history, right? Let's get straight into this. We are diving deep into the second part of our investigation into ancient high technology. And today, we're focusing on something that's been hiding in plain sight for millennia. Something so profound, so technically advanced, that it has taken us until now, with our modern understanding of precision manufacturing, to even recognize what we're looking at. Now, before we get started, if you haven't watched the first part of this series, I'd highly recommend you pause this video and go back. We laid out the groundwork there, explored the context of these claims, and examined the evidence for ancient machining and polishing techniques. What we're about to explore builds directly on those foundations. Today, we're talking about precision. Not just any old precision, mind you, but precision that would make modern engineers weep with envy. Precision so exact, so mathematically perfect, that it challenges everything mainstream. Archaeology tells us about our ancestors. See, precision isn't just some marketing buzzword that gets thrown around to sell you the latest gadget. It's the invisible foundation upon which our entire modern world is built. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're surrounded by its applications. The engine in your car, the aircraft soaring overhead, the device you're reusing to listen to this. Every single piece of technology around you exists because someone, somewhere, mastered the art of precision manufacturing. Think about it for a moment. Those tiny microchips in your phone contain millions upon millions of transistors, each one smaller than a virus, all working together in perfect harmony. We're talking about components measured in nanometers. That's billionths of a meter. To put that in perspective, the width of a single helium atom measures about 0.06 of 1 nanometer. We've become so precise in our manufacturing that we're literally working at the atomic level. But here's the thing that'll properly blow your mind. This mastery of precision is on some recent development. Our ancestors achieved levels of precision that we're only now beginning to understand and appreciate. Now, I recently picked up this brilliant book called The Perfectionists: How Precision Engineers Created the Modern World by Simon Winchester. Fascinating read. And it was actually recommended to me during a discussion about some of the most precise ancient structures we know of. Winchester traces the birth of modern precision back to 18th century England. With the demands of accurate chronometers for navigation, cannon manufacturing for the Navy, and the development of steam engines drove the need for unprecedented accuracy. You see, when you're building a steam engine, precision isn't optional. It's absolutely critical. If your piston doesn't fit perfectly in its cylinder, if the surfaces aren't dead flat and smooth, your pressurized steam just leaks out, and you've got yourself a very expensive paperweight instead of a working engine. Similarly, when you're boring out cannon barrels, precision literally means the difference between hitting your target and having your cannon explode in your face. Before these developments, naval cannons were essentially cast with a rough, hollow space for the barrel, and when they fired them for the first time while the metal was still cooling, they basically crossed their fingers and hoped for the best. Not exactly what you'd call a reliable system, was it? But here's where it gets interesting. Winchester argues that this pursuit of precision only began in the 18th century. That before this period, Humans simply didn't have the concept or capability for true precision manufacturing. And whilst his book makes a compelling case for precision forming the backbone of our modern world, I have to respectfully disagree with his timeline. I don't think precision manufacturing began in the 18th century. I think it was rediscovered in the 18th century. Because when you start looking at certain ancient objects with the eyes of someone who understands modern precision manufacturing, you begin to see evidence for technological capabilities that are supposed to have been impossible thousands of years ago. Now, let's be clear about something. Precision manufacturing isn't something you develop for artistic or ceremonial purposes. It's expensive, it's difficult, and it requires sophisticated tools and knowledge. We develop precision manufacturing capabilities for one reason only: function. When you need something to work perfectly, when tolerances matter, when failure isn't an option, that's when you invest in precision. But here's the fascinating bit. Once you've developed the capability to manufacture with precision, you can apply those same techniques to create all sorts of objects, not just functional ones. Consider modern CNC milling machines or 3D printers. Whether they're creating machine parts or artistic sculptures, it's the process itself that provides the precision. The process was developed for functional purposes, but it can be applied to anything. This is crucial to remember as we examine ancient objects, because some of them appear highly functional, whilst others seem more ceremonial or artistic. But they all demonstrate the same underlying technological capability. From the mass-produced engines in our cars to the semiconductors in our devices, from firearms to spacecraft, our modern world exists because we've mastered precision. We've progressed from measuring precision in tenths of inches back in the 1700s to working with nanotechnology today that can be measured by individual atoms. And we've done this for good reason. Precision gives us functional benefits. It makes engines more powerful and efficient. It allows us to travel at nearly the speed of sound through the stratosphere. It enables us to send humans into space and bring them back alive. It's also, rather ominously, enabled us to develop weapons capable of ending civilization as we know it. So, it's not all good news, I'm afraid. But why have we pursued precision with such relentless determination? Because it works. Because it gives us capabilities we simply cannot achieve any other way. We don't spend billions developing the ability to create surfaces flat to within 1/20th the width of a human hair just for the fun of it. We do it because it enables us to build things that simply wouldn't function without that level of precision. You can't see this level of precision with your naked eye. You can't feel it with your hands. You need sophisticated, calibrated, and very expensive metrology instruments just to measure it. This isn't something that comes naturally to us. It's a hard-won technological achievement. So when we find evidence of this same level of precision in ancient objects, objects that are supposed to have been made by Bronze Age cultures using primitive hand tools, we need to start asking some very serious questions. And that brings us to what might be the most compelling piece of evidence for ancient high technology that exists anywhere on Earth: the underground complex known as the Serapeum of Saqqara in Egypt. Now, I've covered the Serapeum extensively in previous videos, and I've got a 5-part series dedicated to it if you want to dive deeper. But for our purposes today, we need to understand why this site represents what might be the smoking gun evidence for ancient precision manufacturing. Deep beneath the desert sands at Saqqara lies a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers. And within these chambers sit 24 massive stone boxers, each one carved from a single piece of granite and weighing up to 100 tons. These aren't just big boxers, they're precision instruments disguised as ancient sarcophagi. Manufacturing engineer Christopher Dunn has measured these boxers using calibrated precision instruments. And what he discovered defies everything we're told about ancient Egyptian capabilities. The interior surfaces of these boxers are flat to within 0.0001 inches. That S1/20th the width of a human hair when Don placed his precision strategy anywhere across these interior surfaces. No light passed underneath it. Anywhere. The surfaces are absolutely, perfectly flat. But it gets better. Using a precision square calibrated to within 0.00005 inches, he found that not only are the interior faces perfectly square and parallel to each other, but they're also perfectly square relative to the lid. Think about what this means for a moment. These are single-piece granite boxers, some with interior dimensions of 10 feet by 6 feet. One tiny error anywhere in the manufacturing process would throw off the entire geometry of the box. Let me put this in perspective for you. In modern manufacturing, we might build something like this from separate pieces that we then assemble and adjust. But these boxers are carved from single blocks of granite. There's no adjusting, no fine-tuning. After the fact, you get one chance to get it right, and it has to be perfect. As Christopher Dunn explains in his analysis, for the lid to be square with the interior walls, those walls must be perfectly parallel to each other along the vertical axis. Moreover, the top surface of the box must establish a plane that's perfectly square to the sides. This makes finishing the interior exponentially more difficult. The manufacturers of these boxers didn't just create surfaces that were flat when measured vertically and horizontally. They ensured that all these surfaces were square and parallel to each other, with some surfaces being 5 to 10 feet apart. Without this level of parallelism and squareness, the precision noted throughout wouldn't exist. Now, Dunn makes a crucial point here. You might argue that we shouldn't impose modern perspectives on ancient artifacts, but an appreciation of the level of precision found in these objects is completely lacking in archaeological literature. It's only when you understand what it takes to produce this kind of work that you begin to grasp the significance of what we were looking at. As someone who has worked in manufacturing for over 40 years and created precision artifacts in our modern world, Dunn states categorically that this accomplishment deserves far more recognition than it receives. Nobody does this kind of work unless there's a very high purpose for the artifact. Even the concept of this type of precision doesn't occur to an artisan unless there is no other way to accomplish what the artifact is intended to do. The only other reason such precision would be created is if the tools used are so precise that they are incapable of producing anything less than precision. Either way, we're looking at evidence of a higher civilization in prehistory than what is currently accepted by mainstream archaeology. And here is the thing that really gets me. The Serapeum is UNT. Only place you find these precision stone boxers. They're scattered throughout Egypt, found in pyramids, temples, underground galleries, and tunnel systems. The Egyptian Museum houses numerous examples recovered from sites across the country, but the best and largest examples remain in the Serapeum, probably because they're essentially impossible to move in those confined underground spaces. What's particularly telling is that, to the best of my knowledge, these Serapeum boxers are the only ones that have been properly measured and tested for precision. Christopher Dunn did this analysis on his own initiative, and even then he only tested a couple of boxers out of the 24 that exist down there. Meanwhile, many other precision boxers that seem to have very similar characteristics remain untested. Not even basic testing with handheld precision strategies, squares, and radius gauges has been attempted. This tells you something important about the priorities and motivations of the academic institutions that control access to these sites. Now, There are non-invasive techniques available today that could revolutionize our understanding of these objects. High-definition LiDAR-based 3D scanning, emerging hyperspectral imaging techniques, and modern laser-based metrology tools could determine dimensions and tolerances across entire surfaces of these artifacts. We could map every surface to incredible accuracy without damaging anything. It wouldn't even be particularly expensive to do. The real challenge would be gaining permission from the authorities who guard these sites. But imagine what we could learn if we applied modern analysis techniques to these ancient precision objects. Here's another fascinating observation. When you examine the various stone boxers found throughout Egypt, you see clear evidence for multiple levels of technological capability. There are always two distinct types: the precision-made boxers with straight lines, sharp corners, flat polished surfaces, and perfectly executed geometry. And then there are clearly handmade boxes that are imperfectly done and still show chisel and hammer marks. Generally speaking, the rough, poorly made boxers tend to come from later periods, whilst the precision boxers are attributed to the older, earlier periods. Even the oldest known box, an 8-ton single piece of granite found under Mastaba 17 at Meda, appears to be a precision-made object, not something roughly carved by hand. This presents us with what I call the backwards progression of technological capability. It is the same contradiction we see throughout Egyptian civilization when we compare the Old Kingdom achievements to the rest of Egyptian history. The older the artifact, the more sophisticated it appears to be. At the site of Tanis, you can actually see these two types of boxers lined up side by side. One is clearly precision-made, manufactured to tolerances that would challenge modern equipment. The other is obviously rough, handmade work that matches what we know about the tools and techniques of dynastic Egypt. They reflect vastly different levels of capability and technology. If we can't explain how the dynastic Egyptians made the precision boxers with their known primitive capabilities, doesn't it make more sense that they might have inherited these objects? That they used them for ceremony, tried to imitate them, and created their own crude versions using the tools and techniques they actually possessed. Before we move on, I want to acknowledge Christopher Dunn's massive contribution to this field of study. His book, Lost Technologies of Ancient Egypt, is absolutely crucial reading for anyone interested in this subject. I believe it will be widely recognized as groundbreaking work in years to come. And his meticulous analysis has provided us with the first real scientific examination of these precision ancient objects. Now, precision manufacturing seems to have existed deep in our past, but it is only something our civilization has developed and put to significant use over the last 2 to 3 centuries. Crucially, it was until we begun our own journey down the path of precision that we developed the capability to notice, measure, and appreciate ancient forms of precision. This evidence has been sitting in front of humanity for thousands of years, like some sort of coded message sent through time. But it's one we've only recently developed the ability to read and understand. William Flinders Petrie was one of the first to apply our civilization's knowledge of precision manufacturing to ancient Egyptian objects. Working through the late 1800s and early 1900s, he observed and quantified drilling and machining marks in artifacts, and he measured and speculated on the techniques required to manufacture the thousands of ancient stone vases and vessels that come from the earliest periods of Egyptian history. These stone objects are absolutely remarkable, found in their tens of thousands. They're mostly associated with the very earliest periods of ancient Egypt, the 1st and 2nd dynasties, as well as the archaic and pre-dynastic periods. That's a massive clue right there, because these periods are literally considered part of the Stone Age. The range of shapes and materials used in manufacturing these jars and vases is extraordinary. Some are tiny, almost as if their makers were showing off their capabilities, whilst others are quite large. But they all display an astonishing degree of symmetry and precision. One of my favorite examples seems to have been made so precisely and balanced so perfectly that it can stand upright on its tiny base, almost like balancing an egg on its tip. Many of these jars appear to be manufactured this way, and I'd love to see anyone try to replicate this using copper chisels and the techniques we retold the ancient Egyptians possessed. Some vases appear very solid, whilst others are almost ridiculously thin. So thin, they're nearly transparent. In cases where damage has occurred, we can see just how incredibly thin the material is, shaping and carving out the interior angles and cavities of these jars, some through very long, narrow necks, whilst keeping the material thickness consistent and accurate, represents an extraordinarily difficult manufacturing challenge when working with hard stone. Flinders Petrie documented some remarkable examples in his 1884 article for the Journal of the Anthropological Institute. He described a small, highly polished, narrow-necked vase made from diorite, actually transparent quartz with veins of hornblende, with its neck only 0.05 inches thick. Another large vase made from cyanite was turned inside and out to remarkable thinness, considering the size of the component crystals. But the greatest triumph was a bowl made from diorite, translucent and full of minute flaws that would make it very brittle, yet carved to only 0.024 inches thick over most of its surface. That's no thicker than cardboard, yet it's made from one of the hardest stones you can find. An alabaster vase from the 5th dynasty rivaled this achievement, being only 1/20th to 1/30th of an inch thick. Working in these brittle, incredibly hard materials to these tolerances represents a remarkable feat of manufacturing. These objects are made from some of the most challenging materials you can work with: granite, diorite schist, breccia flint, conglomerate, quartz, basalt, and even obsidian. There's one vase I know of that's made from coranda, which rates 9 on the Mohs scale, the hardest natural substance after diamond. Supposedly, all of these were created by hand using basic tools: flint or copper chisels, abrasive powders, and obsidian blades. The analysis of the stone itself reveals further challenges. Many stone types have varying degrees of hardness within the same piece, being composed of conglomerate mixes of different materials and crystals. As you work the piece, your cutting tools would move from relatively soft material into very hard, brittle crystals that would typically shatter rather than cut cleanly. Yet many of these vases are both impossibly thin and finished to a very high polish. The technology involved in making these objects is so far beyond clay pottery or ceramics that it's laughable to house them together in museums and claim they were made by the same people using the same techniques. Some of these jars were undoubtedly used as canopic vessels for mummification rituals. But here's what's interesting. They were sealed with rough mud and clay lids. These crude clay lids are displayed right next to the incredible precision stone jars in museums. How can you seriously claim these represent equivalent technologies from the same people for the same purpose? This seems like strong evidence for inheritance in ancient Egypt. If these jars were truly made as canopic vessels by the dynastic Egyptians, surely they could have afforded to manufacture proper stone lids for them. But that's not what we see. Around 40,000 of these vases and jars were found beneath the step pyramid of Djoser, the first pharaoh of the 3rd dynasty. Other objects date back even further, to pre-dynastic times. There's a beautiful hollow tube of lapis lazuli with a gold sheath housed in the pre-dynastic section of the Egyptian Museum, displayed alongside bone needles, beads, and basic pottery. Make no more mistake, this is a precision object made from very hard, brittle material that required advanced capability to create. That's just the stonework. The presence of gold means mining, smelting, and refining technologies. It's completely out of place among the known products of Neolithic, pre-Bronze Age, hunter-gatherer cultures. It's one of many hidden in plain sight clues to the truth of our history that you can find throughout the Egyptian Museum if you know what to look for. Consider this huge granite jar attributed to the Archaic period. Here we have very crude, badly aligned early forms of writing that barely scratch the surface of what is essentially a precision object made from incredibly hard stone. The contrast is stark and telling. From observing the markings left by tube drills, Flinders Petrie deduced that the ancients were familiar with rotating tools. But from analyzing these vases and bowls, he realized they were also familiar with rotating the work itself. He concluded they must have used something similar to a lathe with mechanical tool rests to manufacture these objects. Petrie wrote, "The principle of rotating the tool was for smaller objects abandoned in favor of rotating the work. And the lathe appears to have been as familiar an instrument in the 4th dynasty as it is in modern workshops." He found clear evidence that these objects were made using true turning techniques, not grinding processes. One piece showed that the bowl had been knocked off its centering and reset imperfectly, leaving evidence of two different surfaces from different centerings, meeting in a sharp cusp. This could only be produced by a turning process, not by any grinding or rubbing technique. Further analysis revealed evidence from mechanical tool holders and the ability to cut regular arcs from fixed centers. A diorite bowl fragment showed it had been turned as a segment of a sphere from a fixed center with a radius of 3.94 inches. Then the center was shifted and a fresh arc was cut, creating a complex contoured surface. Despite this clear evidence for lathe work, circular saws, and tube drills, mainstream academics maintained that the Old Kingdom Egyptians had no access to the wheel or its principles. They claim this because there's no evidence for wheels in Egyptian writings or diagrams, and they supposedly didn't have command of the wheel until the Second Intermediate Period, thousands of years later, when the Hyksos invaders arrived with their wheeled chariots. Can you imagine the Egyptians' reaction when they first saw those wheeled chariots, then looked over at their own primitive sleds? The contradiction is almost comical. No analysis of precision objects would be complete without mentioning the remarkable schist disc found in the mastaba of Prince Sabu from the 1st dynasty. This complex artifact was discovered among primitive flint knives and copper tools, broken and then carefully reassembled by museum staff. It has been carved from a single piece of very hard schist stone and displays incredibly complex curved surfaces that have been precisely repeated for each of its wings. This does not appear to be the result of simple lathe work. These complex curved surfaces have been precisely carved and replicated with mathematical accuracy. Many have speculated about its purpose. Was it part of a machine, a tool, or artistic expression? I'm less interested in the speculation than I am in the technology required to create it. This appears to be a masterpiece of precision stonework, supposedly created in the very 1st dynasty as nothing more than ceremonial artwork. But it is not just small objects that show evidence of advanced manufacturing. Some of the largest objects known from ancient Egypt take this evidence to an entirely new level. I'm talking about the giant columns and statues found across numerous sites throughout Egypt. In terms of pure symmetry and demonstrated mastery of working hard stone, the huge single-piece flared columns are extraordinary achievements. My favorite example is a remnant from a pink granite column found at the Old Kingdom site of the Temple of Bes. It's difficult to describe this stonework as anything less than pure mastery. Consider the original quarried block must have been wider than the widest part of the flared end, then worked down to the width of the column body on a perfectly aligned center line, then shaped and finished with complete accuracy and symmetry. Although broken, this column would have likely been 40 to 50 feet tall, over 15 meters. Some columns were even larger, like the one still standing at Alexandria. The flares, angles, ridges, and curves all appear flawless, entirely smooth, well-polished, and utterly symmetrical. Could this have been made by hand with pounding stones and copper chisels? I simply cannot conceive how. To my mind, this must be the result of advanced tools with significant mechanical assistance and guidance. Objects like this would be perfect candidates for non-destructive analysis. Using modern metrology techniques and high-resolution 3D scanning, it wouldn't be expensive to do. The challenge would be gaining permissions for the testing. One column alone represents a masterpiece. But there's another dimension to their precision. There are many more than just one. At the Old Kingdom site of Tanis, you can see multiple column ends of the same shape, though more heavily eroded. Some huge, single pieces remain today for tourists to puzzle over. These appear to have been mass-produced in ancient times, as if made in some sort of giant factory. Dozens of these huge single-piece granite columns are known to exist, and ones from the same installation are typically identical, all featuring flared ends in palm or lotus shapes. They've all been found at the oldest Egyptian sites, places like Tanis, Saqqara, and Giza. The precision and consistency is remarkable. Imagine trying to quarry, transport, and precisely shape 16 identical pillars, each over 5.5 meters tall, from solid granite. The technical challenges are staggering. Tanis itself must have been an incredible megalithic site in antiquity, a true playground of giants. The remnants of massive statues can still be found there. You need to use your imagination to picture the scale. But working from the size of just one granite big toe, the complete statue would have been enormous, likely a single-piece figure either seated or standing. In terms of sheer mass, these statues far exceed even the Serapeum Boxes. And in terms of precision, they completely bury the theory that they were made by Bronze Age culture using nothing but pounding stones and hand tools. At the temples of Luxor and Karnak in Upper Egypt, we find the best-known examples of these giant precision statues. The largest at Luxor are estimated to weigh up to 400 tons, and there are several of them, all identical, though somewhat damaged today. What's remarkable is that despite their massive size, the faces are identical in proportions and features. There are remnants of an even larger statue at the Ramesseum, over 60 feet tall and estimated to have weighed more than 1,000 tons. The remnants from Tanis would have been even larger, over 90 feet tall. These statues seem to be subtly smiling, as if daring anyone to try and replicate them or uncover their secrets. They were the inspiration for Shelley's famous and when you see them in person, you can understand that iconic phrase, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." For the best technological analysis of the precision manufacturing techniques used to create these giants, we again turn to Christopher Dunn's work. By analyzing hundreds of photographs captured during several visits to the statues, Dunn has demonstrated that incredibly complex geometric engineering and precision manufacturing was involved in their creation. Not only that, but this sophisticated plan was executed to perfection again and again. The analysis begins with the headdresses and patience. The elongated crowns sitting atop these statues. Several crowns have become detached, allowing detailed examination. Dunn shows how these are the results of extremely complex compound radial, curves, and spherical geometry rendered in 3 dimensions, then precisely repeated from crown to crown. There are no flat surfaces here. This is something far more challenging than simple stone carving. The smoothness and consistency of the arcs and shapes are essentially perfect, replicated exactly from one example to the next. To create these shapes, radial cuts must be made such that the radius stays consistent, whilst the center of the radius arm making the cut moves precisely in 3 dimensions. The crowns appear perfectly symmetrical from side to side. If you photograph one from the front, reverse the image and lay it transparently over the center line of the original, the sides line up exactly. Using this technique, Duhn's analysis of the spherical, radial, and ellipsoid geometry required to manufacture these crowns is thorough and revealing. His conclusion about what this implies for the builder's capabilities is worth sharing in full. The design and precise geometry crafted into these crowns is a symbol of a society that was disciplined in precision engineering and craft. The pieces could not have been created without some kind of mechanical device that guided the tool along a prescribed contour. Neither was this mechanical device a simple machine. The design is one thing, but devising from drawings a means of cutting the design into granite with the exactitude noted in the photographs is entirely another matter. Creating such an object today using modern computers, software, and computer numerically controlled machines would present significant challenges, but not as much head-scratching as would have been involved 50 years ago when I first entered the manufacturing trade. Applying the tools of 50 years ago to this challenge would severely tax craftsmen skilled in manufacturing, and the tools and instruments necessary to ensure such precise geometry would not even be found in a toolbox. This is a profound statement. A professional manufacturing engineer with decades of experience is stating that we could not have created such objects, even 50 years ago, with the best available technology of that time. The next time someone scoffs at the idea of ancient high technology and claims the ancients just applied time, patience, and chisels to the problem, ask them to replicate one of these crowns. It would be quite the challenge, even at 1/50th the scale, creating something with the same precision, dimensions, and proportions. Ask them to do it in granite, by hand, using only the tools found in the archaeological record, and I think we'd quickly see some truth about what we're really looking at. This becomes even more astounding when similar analysis is applied to the faces of these statues. Once again, we see evidence for advanced 3-dimensional geometric precision and remarkable symmetry, executed in massive granite objects that were replicated over and over again. The statues at Luxor, Karnak, and the Ramesseum all appear to have been cut and shaped to the same plan, to the same face, with absolutely mechanical degrees of precision. Dunn has identified numerous aspects of complex geometry in the construction of these faces, showing that core sacred geometry and mathematical principles are reflected in the stone. Varying degrees of radial cuts were consistently made into the granite, and the axes of these cuts were blended to form compound surfaces that curve in 3 dimensions, making up the features of the face. These complex surfaces were precisely reversed and replicated from side to side. The faces are symmetrical, and the implications for manufacturing techniques are staggering. This near-perfect symmetry isn't characteristic of human faces, nor is it found in statues from other cultures. The precision of this symmetry makes replication exponentially more difficult. Using the same photographic reversal technique, we can see this symmetry in action. Central line measurements back up this observation. And what's even more astonishing is that this was repeated across multiple statues with consistent profile ratios between features. How could these have been made? The only way we can accurately and consistently create such complex surfaces today is with computer design and mechanical guidance, CNC machines, that are essentially three-dimensional milling machines. How does this process work for something that's 40, 60, or 90 feet tall, weighing between 400 and 1,000 tons, and carved from solid granite? As Dunn explains, the contoured surfaces of these symmetrical faces would be familiar to designers of everyday products created routinely. Today, with computer algorithms known as non-uniform rational B-splines, or NURBS, which allow them to smoothly morph one shape to another with unbroken perfection. Using NURBS, computer-aided design programs create contours of airplane wings, turbine blades, and even computer keyboards. Surfaces are now routinely designed and manufactured to this apparent precision. Incredibly, the ancient Egyptians were able to routinely craft these heads and achieve the same results again and again from north to south throughout their empire. The stunning implications are analogous to looking through the static interference of time and confusion and seeing the elegance and precision normally built into a Lexus in a place where only the most rudimentary manufacturing techniques are thought to have existed. The techniques the ancient Egyptians are supposed to have used would unproduce the precision of a Model T Ford, let alone a Lexus or Porsche. Dunn has been working from extensive, well-aligned photographs, but imagine what we could learn with modern analysis using advanced metrology tools and high-resolution 3D scanning. Some scanning has been done, but at quite a low resolution and more for artistic modeling than precise metrology. Taking this analysis to the next level should be particularly difficult for archaeological institutions, if only they were genuinely interested in understanding what they're relooking at. These statues are not like sculptures from later cultures. Stylistically, ancient Egypt stands alone. These are precision objects as much as they are artwork, distinct and separate from the classic beauty of Renaissance pieces. I've heard people suggest that because sculptors like Michelangelo could create something as incredible as the statue of David, this proves artists can accomplish anything. I've been to Florence and seen David. It's profoundly beautiful, but it's not the same thing as the mechanical precision and symmetry of these Egyptian statues. David is utterly human in its lack of symmetry, whereas these appear inhuman, or perhaps beyond human, because of their perfect symmetry. And crucially, they're made from granite, which is orders of magnitude more difficult to work than marble. Modern sculptors understand this challenge. Contemporary sculptor Mike Leckey, whose beautiful work in marble has produced pieces of remarkable skill, shared his thoughts on the technical challenges involved. The granite of these heads and figures is extremely hard stone, and I believe tools much more durable than hardened copper chisels must have been used in the carving process. It would be necessary for me to upgrade my normal tools to carve such granite. My modern diamond blades and grinding points would be worn out before a head was even started. The ancient carvers must have had advanced technology. Although the ancient Egyptians had stone chisels and hammers which could cut extremely hard granite, even with an army of disposable labor, completing for large-scale identical pieces with hand tools, would take more time than we can conceive as possible. Modern man with all his modern tools would be challenged to finish one of these pieces in a generous timeline, creating 4 of them as large as they are, all identical, seems almost impossible. So what can we conclude from all this evidence? It should be clear that there's utterly no chance these statues, columns, precision boxers, or vases could have been so precisely and repeatedly fabricated by Bronze Age cultures using the tools found in the archaeological record. Analysis of these objects isn't proof in itself for a lost civilization predating dynastic Egypt, but it's solid proof that advanced forms of technology were required for their manufacture. We need to balance this conclusion against what we know about dynastic Egyptian capabilities, their daily lives, and the tools in the archaeological record. None of it explains how these precision objects were manufactured. Despite this, our academics insist that dynastic Egyptians built everything we see in ancient Egypt. But you can't have this both ways. One of these premises has to give. We left with simple options. Either we completely wrong about the capabilities and tools of early dynastic Egyptians. They actually had advanced capabilities rivaling our own and could make these precision objects, or we wrong in saying they created them at all. To insist both statements are true, that dynastic Egyptians made all these objects using primitive Bronze Age tools is logically inconsistent and makes no sense. Yet this contradiction is exactly the ground mainstream academic Egyptologists choose to occupy. Why don't they want to discuss or investigate the precision and technology evident in these artifacts? Almost every expert who examines these objects. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!